So now we are going to do some adjustments. We're actually going to click and drag this guy out. So once you get everything cleaned up as best as you can, okay, go OK. We'll get back into here. We want to go to the select tool. So make sure you're on the select tool. What we're going to do is we're going to click and move this guy, and you should already have the jungle image up. So we're going to click and drag him into that tab and pull him down, and there he is. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can see this whole image. And what I want you to do is kind of put him over here to the right, and I want his hand on this leaf because we're going to end up putting a shadow on there. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. All right, so he can be off the page a little bit, maybe up. But what we want to do is we want to overlap some of these images. I'm going to actually make him a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go Command T, remember, is the transform. If we want to keep him in proportion, we click on shape, or not shape, shift, and we're going to reduce him down just a little bit. So, because I want him up high, I really don't want these leaves overlapping, but this leave's going to be behind him, and these leaves are going to be in front of him. But I do want, you want this hand on this leaf. So, once we got him where we want to go enter, and it gets rid of that box. All right, now I want to show you another one. It's called a vector layer, and how we can erase some different things. So we should have the, I think this is called a vector layer. I'm going to be honest with you, there are so many different things in Photoshop. I don't know all the correct terminology, so I'm going to go, and I really don't know exactly what they do, so I'm showing you basics, and then you are going to teach yourself. But you do want to be clicked on this vector layer mask, where it says layer mask thumbnail. And then what it's going to do is it's going to bring up this black and white, and you need to be on the brush tool. Okay, it's going to sound weird, but then you want black and ground. You're going to see it says set foreground color, set background color. All right, so what's going to happen is whatever's on top, which is this one, so that was the, whoops, don't click on it. I don't remember. Anyways, we'll figure it out. So you're going to see the brush tool. I'm going to open the bracket a little bit so we make that brush a little bit bigger. But notice how it erases and puts the leaf over the top. Well, we don't want that. We want the hand over the top. So to click back and forth, you're going to click these little arrows, and it clicks back and forth. So there's the hand. But now we've erased too much. So this is where you've got to refine your, and actually, look, see, I already had it on there. I'm going to show you another tool. This is called the history panel. This is an awesome panel. So if I want to go right back to the beginning, click on this panel. And if this isn't here, let me click out of this. If you don't see this little button, go to Windows. If you don't see something over here that's in a video, go to the Windows and then try to find what they called it. So here's the history panel, then that shows up. So we're going to go to free transform was the last thing I did. So it can take you back multiple steps. So this is a great feature. So we'll click out of that. So now I'm back to the original. But what I do want is I want to erase out some of the shorts so I can see the leaves. So I need to go back and click back to the black, and I'm going to open up my brush just a little bit. And then I'm going to start erasing this so it looks like it's behind. So really quick. But I don't really know where this leaf starts and begins. So what we want to do is come over here to the layer panel and go to the opacity, and we are going to turn the opacity down. And you're going to see, we can kind of see both. So make sure you can see both. And then you want to go in and kind of put this leaf over the top of him, and then put that leaf in. All right, so again, you may want to get your brush really small. You may want to increase so we can really see those details. And again, if you go too far out, I'll show you another trick. So let's say I went out too far. Remember, you go back and switch back to the white, and the white will be your background color. Now, I'm going to show you one other thing. With the brush tools, we haven't really talked about brush, but they have a hardness and a softness to it. Mine was already set on 30. Yours was probably on 100. So what that does is give kind of a soft edge, kind of an airbrush. So really, to get kind of a soft, so it doesn't look crisp, you can take that softness down a little bit, and then that will kind of see it well, I'm not going over it, so let's go this way. You can kind of see it's a soft edge versus if I went a hard edge, 100%. Okay, it's got a really crisp edge. So we want to get rid of that. Get that back to the blue shirt. And then you can decide if you want to put this leaf in there, or I probably wouldn't put that one in, but maybe you want to put this one in. All right, so at least overlap these in here. Okay, so I'm going to bring that opacity back up, and I'm going to zoom out. Now, another thing we need to do is kind of play around with the color a little bit. So now we've messed, that was kind of masking, that's a masking technique. Now I want to mess around with the actual image, so I need to click on this image thumbnail instead. He's a really, really bright color in a dark jungle, so he should not be that bright. So this is where your eyes, your artistic point of view has to come in. So we need to kind of get the saturation down a little bit, maybe the intensity or the brightness down a little bit, and change the color reflection. So we got to make sure we're on that layer, not on the background layer. Okay, and we are going to go to Image, Adjustments, and there are tons of different things. And again, Photoshop has so many different things, but to just kind of mess around with color, all these kind of work. I'm going to go to Color Balance, and then this window, a window will pop up, and what you can do is kind of do these sliders back and forth, and you can see that kind of gets a warmer color. We don't really want it warmer, it's a cool background. So if I kind of went in the magenta way, that kind of, to me, that looks a little bit better. Maybe not so. Let's try the yellows. Actually, the yellow doesn't look too bad. The blue's too intense. So you just gotta kind of play around with it and see what works best. So we just don't want him as bright as what he was. Let's try the blue a little bit. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what would be the perfect level for that, but you can kind of get the idea. All right, so mess around with the images and the adjustments. We could also go brightness and contrast. So let's take the brightness. We don't want it down. Maybe go down a little bit because he's in a jungle, so it should have a little bit more shadows to him, and then maybe play around with the contrast a little bit. All right, so play around with those. And then I'm going to show you one more technique to use the brushes. So he's got a hand over the top of this leaf, so there should be a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to enlarge into this area. And now we're going to go back to the brushes. And you're going to see it's got original colors because we're not in this. Actually, we need to be in this background because I want to paint on the leaf, not on him. Okay, so I make sure that's one thing, be a common mistake. You'll be like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? It's probably because you're on the wrong layer. All right, so what I want to do is I want to get a really dark green and put over here. So there is a tool, it's called the Eyedropper. You'll see it right here, and if you click on the Eyedropper, what it does is it picks up the color. So I want a dark green, so I'm going to get my eyedropper and go right here, and you can see it kind of selects it, and that's what is selected over here. Now I'm going to go back to my brush tool, and I want to get this smaller, maybe a little bit bigger, and I want to make sure my hardness is really soft. So I don't want it super hard. I want to go, well, let's try about 30 or 40. And then what I'm going to do is kind of brush in here, and that's super dark, but I'm going to show you how to fix that here in a minute. And we're going to put a little bit of a shadow in here. So we're just brushing a color in. We could actually, I'm going to try that. We're going to go back to the history panel, go back, and I am going to go get the opacity down. So let's turn that down and see if that helps. There we go. There, it's not so bright. It shouldn't have that little spot right there. And then that way we can still see the other things on there. And notice it's got that soft edge. So we're just going to put a little shadow. I know that shadow probably wouldn't come out that far. So let's go to the eyedropper tool and select a lighter color. And then go back to the brush tool and make sure our opacity is still kind of down. Again, so it's all kind of manipulation and playing around a little bit. Go around. Or maybe I want to erase some of that. If I erase it, it's actually going to erase the whole thing. So again, if you really mess up, just go back through this history panel and kind of fix things. So not a great shadow here. I'd still mess around with that, but I don't want to spend time showing you how I'm going to refine it and refine it. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. So your end result should be this guy selected, and I should see the hairs on here. He should have a nice soft edge around him. He should have some leaves down here overlapping him, but yet some behind him. And then he should have a little bit of a shadow, not as big of a shadow as I've got here. Okay, so you decide on that leaf if you want it forward or backwards. All right, once you get that done, you're going to upload it into the assignment, and I will give you some points for it. So good luck. If you have any questions, let me know.